I'm your host, as always, Rich Quinones. 2 hours to play with. We'll take you up to 6 o'clock straight up. T on the other side of the glass, producing the show, keeping us on the air on this 6th of October, 2021. Don't forget the 609-445-1490. That'll get you involved in two-way sports talk, bring something to the table. You can always get social with us today, and I'm sure you will, at 1490 SportsBet, at Rich Q on Q. You know, you ever see the movie Unforgiven with Clint Eastwood, Gene Hackman? It's a fantastic movie. It's an old Western. Last night, I felt like Gene Hackman in Unforgiven. I really did. Because towards the end of the movie, Clint Eastwood got the revenge for the death of his partner in crime, Morgan Freeman. And he basically just clips Gene Hackman. And prior to clipping Gene Hackman stares at him on the floor, gunshot wound already, fatal one, and says, hey, you know what? I don't deserve this. I was building a house. And Clint Eastwood turns around and says, deserves got nothing to do with this. And that's exactly what I was thinking last night when I had to watch the Yankees and Gerrit Cole, your 330-something million-odd man, who goes out and spits the bit, and Yankees fans like myself didn't deserve it. But as Eastwood said, it's got nothing to do with deserves. You cannot, under any normal circumstance, in a one-game playoff against your rival, the Boston Red Sox, get the ball, go to the mound, because you're supposed to be this bona fide ace. Correct me if I'm wrong. A bona fide ace. And again, absolutely choke. Because that's exactly what that was. Absolutely choke. I don't want to hear any crap, any nonsense about a hamstring. I don't want to hear any of that stuff. I really don't. The reason they didn't use him the other day on short rest was so he can rest. And the funny thing about this is when Johnny Mack jumped on yesterday for Football in the 20s, I said to Johnny Mack, look, yeah, you know what's going to happen? Cole's probably going to get knocked around early, and Booney's going to pull him. So what happens last night? Cole gets knocked around early. Boston scores 2 in the first. They had a run in the third. They're already up 3-0. Going into the 6th when the Yankees finally, they were up 4-0 when the Yankees finally scratched a run, and then Boston countered with a run their own to make it 4-1. It was pretty much academic. I got to watch Bogarts with the big 2-run shot. And then I got to watch Schwarber with a shot that still hasn't landed 435 feet. And I understand the offense has been inconsistent. 4 through 9 was a disgrace. I get it. And you can get on the base running, if you want to call it the blunders. I really don't have an issue with that when you talk about first and third and then potentially first and second. I mean, the stats are ridiculous. Gallo, I think, in 2,400 plate appearances has 2 sack flies. Again, you can talk about Bogarts cutting down Judge at the plate in the 6th. You want to get on, the base running. You got a player in Judge who's not fleet of foot. I know people wanted to just absolutely kill everyone in that regard. But when it was all said and done, the Boston Red Sox going to beat the Yankees 6-2. And Eovaldi looks like what Cole should have been. I mean, it was unbelievable. I was so frustrated and annoyed watching that game last night. I really was. And again, for everyone that says, get rid of Cashman, he's got another year on his contract, which the guy's been around for what it seems like a quarter of a century. they helped their cause in the second half of the season because they made that trade for Rizzo. But the offense has done nothing. The Torres experiment as shortstop has come to an end. He plays much better at second base. Judge is about to enter his final year of arbitration before he hits free agency. Gary Sanchez wasn't as bad as he was in 2020, but he wasn't good enough to guarantee he's coming back to the Bronx. They've had injuries. The offense, as I mentioned, just couldn't get it going. It's been the bugaboo all season long. They've been extremely inconsistent. The only one that showed up last night was Stanton, 3 for 4. But how am I supposed to sit here today and just pretend, again, like Gerrit Cole, who gets paid big-time money to go out and do what's expected of you? This guy's never, ever been a big game pitcher in his life. He's never pitched well against Boston. He's never pitched well against Boston in Boston. So shame on me for thinking last night would have been different. Shame on me for thinking, here you go out there and win the game. 2 innings, 3 runs, 2 homers, 4 hits, a couple walks. He threw 50 pitches and Boone said that's it. And here's another thing, too, with ESPN, because it's just like friggin' watching either it's Fox or CNN, wherever you lay your hat, whatever network you believe in, the narrative that they push, everyone's sitting there saying Cole was like, I'm out. Like he was all distraught. No, he was basically telling his catcher at the time, I'm done, I'm out. That's it, they're pulling me. He wasn't even going to fight because he knew he didn't have his stuff. It wasn't there. So a season that had ups and downs, ebb and flows, because that's typically what the Yankees have done over the last several years. You have an opportunity to go on the road and beat your rival in a one-game playoff, and your $330 million man couldn't get the job done. He couldn't. And that's where we are today. And I don't want to hear in a day or two his hamstring injuries, they were worse than it is. I mean, it's just, come on. Unbelievable. And I knew. I was texting my buddies, get him out of here. So the Yankees season has come to an end. The friggin' Boston Red Sox move on, which is just... And then you got the Cardinals and the Dodgers in the one-game playoff tonight. And that's where we are right now in baseball, because we got a lot more to talk about. Dombrowski spoke today for the Philadelphia Phillies. Harper had some choice words for their minor league, lack of minor league system, the farm system. We don't know how many changes are going to be up top with the Philadelphia Phillies. The Mets are looking for a new GM. So we'll dive into a lot of baseball today with Steve Gardner in about 5 minutes, 4:20 from USA Today. We will start to sneak peek, a little look, peel the curtain back. How about this? Padres just fired their manager, Jace Tingler, which, talk about the expectations. That's another guy. That's another team that failed miserably as far as expectations. And we'll get into what the Yankees are going to do with Boone, right? Because he's, quote, at peace with his future up in the air in New York. I mean, all right, whatever. So that's where we stand. 609-445-1490. You guys can connect with me on social media. I already see it. You guys, I was a little cocky yesterday. I'll be the first one to say that. I was a little cocky, a little braggadocious yesterday coming on, because it was a good weekend for New York sports. And then let me tell you, I got Eastwood last night. I was Hackman. Evaldi was Eastwood. Cole was Hackman. I was Hackman, and boom. Deserves ain't got nothing to do with it. So that's where we are today. By the way, there's so many other things going on I have to mention the Simmons. We'll talk a little bit about that. You got the Kyrie Irving, which is, I'm telling you right now, folks, do not waste any money on the Nets this year. You got the Urban Meyer situation. We got a ton of stuff to dive into, and we're just cranking up on a Wednesday edition of BYP right here on AM 1490 Sports Betting Radio. I'm your host, as always, Rich Quinones. We'll get to some tweets on the other side. Steve Gardner from USA Today, a little post-mortem on the New York Yankees. We'll get his thoughts on the Philadelphia Phillies, the state of the Philadelphia Phillies, because, you know, they have a lot of question marks again. And if you follow the Philadelphia Phillies, like many of you in this area do, you almost got to take a step back and say, okay, who stays and who goes? Because you got some impending free agents. And again, for the 10th straight October, the Phils will turn the page early. Missing out on the postseason. Now, granted, 82-80, okay, fine. Wasn't nearly good enough to get them in to the playoffs. But they got an expensive core that's going to remain. So we will dive into that with Steve on the other side as well. All right, keep it locked in. We're just cranking up on a Wednesday down the shore on the 6th of October, 2021. We'll take you up to 6 o'clock straight up inside the friendly confines of the AM 1490 Sports Betting Radio studios. This is Back Your Play.